Well, hello everyone, my name is zwiggojr and welcome back to the How Fast Can You Beat series. Today we will be taking a look at the mythical Pokemon, Manaphy. Manaphy is a special Pokemon because back in the day you could only get it through Pokemon Ranger, which was one of the spin-off games where you had to capture Pokemon with a stylus and then go around them with this weird little Beyblade looking thing. And Pokemon Ranger is an amazing spin-off game, definitely top 3 in my opinion, combined with the Mystery Dungeon series and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness and Colosseum. Manaphy has a 600 base total just like all of the other mythical Pokemon, and he has 100 in every single stats, so it's basically an Arceus but just a little bit weaker, and it of course can't change typing. If you take a look at its move pool, it's going to be pretty damn shallow with a lot of water type moves mixed in there. But one thing that makes Manaphy great is its starting move, Tail Glow, which ups its special attack by 2 stages, which we're going to abuse the crap out of. Before we get into the gameplay, don't forget to comment down below with where you think Manaphy will be on the leaderboard at the end of the video. Let's also try to hit 4,000 likes for Manaphy, because it needs some love. And with that out of the way, let's just jump right into it. We're going to be naming ourselves Ranger because, as I told in the beginning, Manaphy used to be only available in Pokemon Ranger. I'm gonna be naming my rival Tweet because I haven't promoted my Twitter in a while, so if you want to follow me on there, the link is in the description. I always provide the best information on Twitter, just look at this post. I then go to Professor Rowan to pick up my starter, and I replace Piplup with Manaphy so that my rival has Turtwig, which is good against us. But even if we didn't pick Turtwig as our rival's starter, it would still have a rose rate, so it all ends up being the same in the end. As we start off, we actually only have 2 useful moves in Tail Glow and Bubble is a super weak move, and the next level that Manaphy learns an attacking move is level 24, so we're gonna be stuck with Bubble for a while. The Turtwig fight wasn't hard at all since I just set up 2 Tail Glows and finished it off with a few Bubbles after that. I then get to nickname my Manaphy and I name it No Fion because I'm still not sure if I'm actually going to do a Fion run. Just leave it in the comments down below if you want to see it too, because in my opinion it's just a waste of a Pokemon slot in the Pokedex. It's basically just a Manaphy but with worse stats, the same move pool, and no Tail Glow. I then pick up my watch because you all need to see what time I'm playing right now. It's not in the middle of the night, no, it is actually midday. Then it's time for the second rival battle. I go ahead and set up 3 Tail Glows on his first Pokemon, Starly, and I then finish it off with 2 Bubbles. And then it's time for Turtwig, so I just go for Bubble a bunch more with my Bubble Blower. I have no idea what these things are called in English, but in Dutch they're called Belleblazers. Every kid had to had one when they were younger. I then go through the Orberg mine and I reach Rourke, but I'm actually not at a high enough level in order to outspeed his Cranidos, and even with my Tail Glow setup, his headbutt just does too much damage. So what I decided to do was I take on the other 2 gym trainers in order to get a few more levels, and then I went back into the fight at a time of 30 minutes, which is not too bad. At the start of the battle, I go for 2 Tail Glows in order to make myself strong, and then I bubble the Geodude to death. It did hit me with a few rock throws, but that was fine. Next up is Onix, which we can also outspeed and kill with a single bubble, and last up is Cranidos once again. The Cranidos actually manages to hang on from my bubble with a little bit of HP remaining. He goes for the headbutt, but I hang on as well, and then he heals up with a potion so we can finish him off with another bubble. I then smash some rocks with my Bidoof. No, you perverts, don't think about it that way. Then we reach the Valley Windworks, which is a little bit annoying because the Perugly is level 17 and my Manaphy can totally not take it out at this level. Because I need to set up on the Zubat, it also does some chip damage against me, then the Perugly always goes for Fake Out, so gets a free hit in, and my Manaphy just doesn't do enough damage and in the end just goes down by the fat cat. So of course what I had to do is harass the local wildlife in order to train up my blue thing so that it would learn Supersonic at level 16, which is going to be an amazing move throughout this entire run, even though it's RNG based. Then we went back to the battle with Mars, and of course I start off by confusing our first Pokemon Zubat with my new move, then switching between Tail Glow and Supersonic if it snapped out of confusion, and eventually I killed it with 2 Bubbles. Then Perugly came out, I start off by confusing it, and then I get a critical hit with Bubble in order to take it out in one shot. Easy peasy. And now it's time for us to enter Hell. Of course, it's the second gym badge, which is Grass type, and my Manaphy is gonna get absolutely destroyed Not even by Gardenia, but by the gym trainers. I couldn't even get past Budjuice. That's how bad it was. So eventually I decided to just grind up Manaphy up to level 24 so that it would learn Bubble Beam, and then I could take out all of the trainers and start on Gardenia herself. And we reached her at a time of 2 hours and 1 minute, which is not too great, but that's what I thought that Manaphy was gonna be. Pretty damn slow in the start of the game, but in the late game, pretty damn fast. So as the battle kicks off, I go for the Supersonic on Turtwig in order to confuse it. Then I set up 3 of my Tail Glows, but he did set up a Sunny Day, which is going to weaken my water type moves, but still a Bubble Beam can one-shot it. Next up is Cherim. I go for the Supersonic once again. It hits itself eventually, which causes me to kill it with 2 Bubble Beams. Last up is Roserade, and I don't even bother going with Supersonic because a Bubble Beam is actually enough to take it out from full health. In this gym, the gym trainers are actually harder than the gym leader herself. Next up, it's time for Jupiter, at the top of the Team Galactic building, of course, but this fight was a joke, as we only set up 1 Tail Glow and then proceed to 1-shot Zubat and 2-shot Skuntank with our beam of bubbles. As we walk around town, this lady comes up to me and gives us an egg for breakfast. Nice. I do like my eggs scrambled though. And then smack all of the hikers and their stupid stones. And I reached the 3rd gym leader, Fantina, at a time of 2 hours and 22 minutes. Fantina was no problem. I set up a Tail Glow on Duskull. We do get burned, which is quite annoying, but we're not going for physical attacks here, so our Bubble Beam can one-shot Duskull. Next is Miss Magus, hits us with a Magical Leaf and does a lot of damage, but 2 Bubble Beams take it out as well. And finally is Houndour, which we can one-shot too. First try, easy peasy, time to head on to the next rival battle. The next rival battle actually was super easy for me because I only got hit once by a quick attack from Staravia, and then I just Tail Glow 3 times and Bubble Beamed Staravia, Groudle, Ponyta, and Buizel all into oblivion. Then we reach Maylene at a time of 2 hours and 48 minutes for our 4th gym badge. And this was a very close fight, but we did set up 2 Tail Glows on Meditite and then one-shot it with Bubble Beam. Next up is Lucario, who paralyzes me with a Force Palm, but then we take it out as well. And last up is Machoke, but before we go into Machoke, I decide to get rid of Charm for Acid Armor, even though I'm never gonna use it. I thought it might be useful, but it really wasn't. Machoke then attacks us, we are left with 3 HP, and we take him out with a Bubble Beam once more. The next rival battle basically went the same as the last one, except we now one-shot Staravia, but we can't one-shot Groudle, so it's able to hit a Razor Leaf and do a lot of damage, but the second Bubble Beam does take him out, and then Buizel and Ponyta both go down with a single Bubble Beam. Next up is Crasher Wake, which we do reach at a time of 3 hours and 17 minutes. And this fight only took me 2 attempts, so my first one I lost because I got bad RNG luck against the Gyarados, and he was able to bite me to death. But in our next attempt I was a little bit smarter. I decided to confuse it and then set up some Acid Armors so that he would do less damage. Then set up my Tail Glows and eventually take him out with my Bubble Beams. Then I proceed to one-shot Quagsire. Floatzel comes out next. It's able to hit a critical hit Ice Fang, but I'm left with 7 HP and a single Bubble Beam takes it out as well, giving us our 5th gym badge. Then the Safari Zone explodes like usual. Nothing new here. We chase the blue hair guy, go into the worst route in the entirety of Pokemon, get our ass smacked by a Machoke, and eventually reach Cyrus in Old Lady Town. Cyrus himself was no problem. We just set up with Tail Glow and then we one-shot his first Pokemon, Sneasel, Golbat, and Murkrow with Bubble Beams. We now get the HM for Surf, which is going to be amazing because we're going to be using it for the rest of the run. We then surf to Canalave City to take on our rival once more. He now has a Staraptor and he decides to set up some double teams while I set up 2 Tail Glows, and then I take him out with a single Surf. Next up is Torterra, which we also take down with a Surf. Then Rapidash, which also goes down to a single Surf. Heracross gets one-shot too, and finally is Floatzel, who also goes down with a single one. And then we can reach Byron at a time of 3 hours and 57 minutes. Byron himself is no problem. We start off by setting up 1 Tail Glow. The Magneton does hit a Thunderbolt, doing over half of our health, but then we proceed to one-shot his entire team with Surf, so that's Magneton, Steelix, and Bastiodon. Nothing can stand up to me. We then have a little board meeting with the professor and with Dawn and with Tweet, but I fell asleep, so I forgot what I had to do. So I wanted to go to the lake to calm my mind, and it exploded. We can't let that happen, so we have to take on the guys that did this. Since we can just tail glow and then one-shot their Bronzors, their Golbats, and then their final Pokemon's Toxicroak and Purugly without any problems. As I'm then making my way to Snowpoint City, I find this weird looking Pokeball lying in the snow. I wonder how it got here. Honestly, how do items spawn in the Pokemon world? Like, does someone just go around and lay random items everywhere? I wonder how that works. We then finally make our way up to Candace at 4 hours and 36 minutes. And Candace is honestly one of the hardest gym battles I've had to do up to this point, and that's because of her Abomasnow. The Sneasel is always able to get in a lot of chip damage because I have to set up my tail glows, and then the Abomasnow mostly just finishes me off with a Wood Hammer. Even if I do get past the Abomasnow, she still has a Frostlass which outspeeds me and does a lot of damage with Shadow Ball. But in the end, these factors weren't too much of a hassle. I still could defeat her on like my 12th attempt. So I of course start off the battle by confusing the Sneasel and then setting up my tail glows, 3 of them exactly, and then killing it with Surf. Next is Abomasnow and it decides to go for Avalanche for some reason, and I decide to confuse it. I then hit it with a Surf and it kills itself with its confusion. Next up is Piloswine, which we can one-shot with Surf and Frostlass as well. First we did miss a Surf because of double team, but in the end we came out victorious with 7 gym badges. We then interrupt these guys at the lake, no idea what they were doing, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave y'all alone. Then it's once again that time of the video where Cyrus has to do his amazing speech.
Voy a la playa, había subido la marea. Había subido la marea con triple paella.
He is such an inspiration to this generation. Then it's time to, of course, beat him up. I decide to go with an acid armor on his first Pokemon, Sneasel, so that the rest of his team would not do as much damage against me. Then I set up a few tail glows and I start surfing away, killing the Sneasel in one hit. And then Crobat and Honchkrow share the same fate as the Sneasel, both going down to surfs. Of course, next up is the battle at the top of Spare Pillar against the 2 admins, after setting the Lake Trio free, but I'm not gonna go over that fight because it was just insanely easy. And with this one, I just set up all of my tail glows and then surfed everything on their team. Even my rival couldn't even bring out his Pokemon because once he brought out another Pokemon, my Surf would just kill it, since it also hurts your teammates. Sadly enough, taking down your teammates' Pokemon doesn't give you any XP. After absolutely wrecking these guys, it's time for another party with Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina. We then jump into the portal with the girl that gave us breakfast earlier, and after some screwing around in the distortion world, I eventually reached Cyrus. And this was up until now the hardest battle yet, because all of his Pokemon are of course strong, but he has a Gyarados which I can really not do that much damage to. Weavile outspeeds and does a lot of damage, Crobat outspeeds and does a lot of damage, but Honchkrow and Houndoom are no problem. Gyarados' Earthquake is pretty scary, but besides that, we did not have that many attempts, only about 25. So what I did with the Houndoom was I decided to supersonic it and then go for my tail glows, because then I can just easily set up without taking too much damage and then just sweep his Houndoom with a Surf. Next up is Gyarados, then I go for the supersonic once again and I set up an acid armor too so that I can take more hits and then I can take him out with a Surf. Next up is Honchkrow, which you can take down with a Surf as well. Crobat then comes out, which is able to poison us before it goes down, and then Weavile comes out. He goes for the fake out. I of course flinch and take some poison damage. I get hit with a Night Slash, but it isn't enough to take me out, and a Surf finishes off Cyrus. Giratina is up next, but that's no problem. We can just tail glow and then kill it with a few Surfs. This blue blob just killed the devil. And then we reach Volkner at a time of 6 hours and 3 minutes, which means that it can't even go top 2 at the moment. Even though I'm weak to Volkner's electric types, it wasn't really that hard to beat him, because if I didn't get paralyzed, there was no problem at all, because I could just one-shot everything. That's why on my 3rd attempt, I was already able to beat him, because on his Jolteon, I just used Supersonic, then I set up my tail glows without being paralyzed and took every single mon of his team out with Surf, so that's Jolteon, Raichu, Luxray, and Electivire. none of them could even survive a single wave. Then we can head on to the Pokemon League and our final rival battle before we get into the Elite Four. And this fight was super easy. I just went for Tail Glow on the first Pokemon Staraptor and I took it out with Surf. Next up was Torterra, which we also took down with a single Surf. Snorlax then survived a Surf but didn't do too much damage, so another one took him down as well. And then Heracross, Floatzel, and Rapidash all went down to Surfs as well, without me actually having any problems here. And that means we can now head on to Aron, our first Elite Four member with the Bug types, which is of course going to be an easy sweep. He starts off with the Mega, so I set up my Tail Glow and then go for 2 Surfs because my first one missed because of the double teams. Then he sends out his next Pokemon, Heracross, which we one-shot as well. Then Vespiquen is actually able to hang on from a Surf, go for the defend order, heal up, and then 2 more Surfs take it down too. And his last 2 Pokemon, Scizor and Drapion, both go down to Surfs as well. This run is basically just, haha, Tail Glow, go brr, and then Surf everything. Next is Bertha, which always gives me some kind of problem, but this time we have a water type, so she is no problem at all, and it feels so good just sweeping her stupid hippo down. So we just set up Tail Glow, I go for the Surf, Wishcash goes down in a single hit, then Gliscor, which also goes down, Golem 2, Rhyperior, and finally Hippo down. Nothing is taking a Surf from this Manaphy. So then it's time for Flint, another one where we're good against fire types, are going to get absolutely obliterated here. But on my first attempt I actually lost to Flint because I didn't set up enough Tail Glows, and the Magmortar actually survived the Surf because there was a sunny day up and it was able to hit a few Thunderbolts. And then last up was Flareon, who also survived a Surf and then hit me with an Overheat to take me down. Luckily on my second attempt I knew what to do, so I just set up my Tail Glows on Houndoom, killed it with Surf, Infernape also went down to Surf, Rapidash got washed away too, Magmortar and Flareon got absolutely flooded. I don't really get why Surf even spawns in a huge wave. I mean, you're surfing, but how does the wave get there? Like, where do you get that amount of water? Anyway, time to go over to Lucian, and of course he starts off with his Mr. Mime, so I go for my Tail Glow setup once more, and then I proceed to take down Mr. Mime with a single Surf. Next up is your boy Alakazam, who also goes down. Then Gallade actually survives because there is a light screen up, and he hits me with a Leaf Blade, almost taking me out. Luckily, a second Surf takes it out, and the light screen also fades away. His last 2 Pokemon are Bronzong and Espeon, who both go down to our big tidal waves too. No more problems. Time to head up to Cynthia, and if you thought that Cynthia was actually going to be very hard, she really isn't. It only took me about 20 attempts in order to take her down, and there were 2 Pokemon that were annoying on her team, which were Roserade and Milotic. Milotic because if I would go for a Surf, it would just do half of its health, and then it would just go for Miracle to take me out. And Roserade could also survive the Surf and just kill me with an energy ball. But of course, if I just use Supersonic and they attack themselves a few times, there is no more problem. So here's what I did. She starts off with her Spiritomb, I just go for Supersonic. It hit itself a lot of times. I only got hit with a little bit of HP gone, so I can just set up my Tail Glows, 3 of them, then kill it with Surf. Next up is Roserade, so I went for the Surf once more and I got a high roll taking it out in one shot, which hasn't happened before. Then Togekiss comes out, which we can also one shot with Surf, no problemo. Garchomp for some reason actually doesn't outspeed me, so we can take him down with a single one as well. Lucario goes down in a single Surf as well, and then Milotic comes out, so I can fuse it with Supersonic, and then I start going for Surfs. It hit me with a few Dragon Pulses, but in the end we took him down, and we're now champions of the Sinnoh region with only a Manaphy. Not hard at all, probably one of the easiest runs I've ever had to do. But let's check out its final time compared to everyone else. 7 hours and 1 minute, that places it just above Heatran, but also just below Giratina. That means that Manaphy is on the 5th position, and the reason why it's not number 1, 2, or 3 is because it lost too much time in the early game. I had to grind, which I didn't have to do with Dialga, Palkia, or Arceus, or Giratina, and that's why it's in the middle of the list right now. Manaphy is definitely a special Pokemon. I really enjoyed using it because it was nice just tail glowing and sweeping with Surf. This was the shortest playtime I've ever had to do, so the least amount of resets. So in terms of that, Manaphy is actually first. Also, let me know in the comments down below if you really want me to do Fionn, otherwise I'll just jump to Shaman or Cresselia for the next video. And with that out of the way, I want to thank every one of my membership and Patreon supporters for helping me to support the channel and making me able to buy bread. Thank you so much. Of course, if you want to member up as well, the links are in the description. And with that out of the way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm zwiggojr, and I'll see you guys next time.